I'm Glen Killion from St. Paul, Nebraska. Been a Riogen dealer basically since the inception of the introduction of Rhyzogreen. I've been working with producers throughout central Nebraska, Colorado, and even into Louisiana. So working with quite a diverse bunch of crops: corn, milo, soybeans. We've got some combination uses with some other products that we feel like we can enhance the utilization of other products. We've got some trials going on in reduction of nitrogen inputs, either at planting time or throughout the season, to see what kind of effects Rhyzogreen can have on crop production. Really curious to continue to follow along and measure the actual health and those measurements of the soil, the microbial populations, available nutrients in the soils as we continue to use Rhyzogreen year after year. Current focus this year has been on alfalfa. So there's been some trials set up in central Nebraska. One in particular I want to talk about today was a trial established in Palmer, Nebraska, on a 36-acre alfalfa field. 2/3 of that is irrigated under pivot irrigation, and the final third of it would be primarily dry land, catches a little bit of the pivot irrigation. We agreed to establish the trial on thirds, with the first irrigated 12-acre portion treated, and then the middle section of that field untreated, and then the final primarily unirrigated as treated. So maybe we could see how much of an effect Rhyzogreen could have on that alfalfa and dry land as well. This was established on a first-year growth of planted alfalfa from last year. The Rhyzogreen was applied after first cutting this year. Second cutting was put down, and unfortunately had about a week to 10 days worth of rain on that hay. So we had to continue to be patient and wait, and our goal then was to literally just count the number of bales. He baled at 12-acre increments individually, and when we did that on the irrigated portion, treated versus untreated, it was almost unbelievable to do just the bale count. On 12 acres it was 27 bales on the treated and 14 bales on the untreated in the irrigated section. And just looking at that by itself, it almost seemed unbelievable. We really put some thought into, did we see those kind of differences in the standing alfalfa? And we didn't. So we almost couldn't believe the amount of difference in that. However, then at that same thing, as we looked at the number of bales on the treated area unirrigated, that was, I believe, 19 bales. So even the dryland portion of that field unirrigated was better than the untreated section on that second cutting. So again, moisture played into that. We were a little uncertain how accurate that kind of a test was for that cutting. So we made a decision to continue to follow through then on third cutting, and decided then we're going to try to be more scientific about the test itself, and really only focus maybe on the irrigated sections of the treated versus untreated. So the producer and I, we decided that he would do all the outside land of the field, cut that, and we would literally only take the vertical rows of the windrows, and he would start at the south end of the field, in treated, and bale to a point until he made a bale, and then stop and come back around and come to that south end again. And he did 6 windrows across the treated area and replicated the same thing in the untreated area, all from that same end of the field. And then I measured the distance that it took to make each of those bales, so that we actually measured the number of acres in a 16-foot swath, I think it was, with actual acres baled versus actual acres baled, treated versus untreated, and then we weighed those bales. And off of that third cutting, the difference was 1/4 of a ton per acre on the amount that was harvested, treated versus untreated. So 1/4 of a ton per acre on $200 a ton alfalfa on the one cutting paid really for the product. So if we assume that then on maybe 3 cuttings across the field, then we're looking at 3/4 of a ton an acre.